деятельность предложения. Нету таких. Там просто приложение. И не холодно, и я не мерзну, понимаешь? Вчера это же самое было. Мне может дали. Железно. Так. Вообще прям здесь. Мне так это интересно. Нет, наоборот, я понял, наоборот, не надо понял. Ну да. Как вот ты это писаешь, человек? Ну да, мне кажется, да. Ну можешь не брать на работу, деньги мне высылай. Пятнашка нормально. В принципе, тоже вариант нормальный. Пока что. Не, без работы нельзя. Работа это приживление как бы. Ну вот я не знаю, как это объяснить, понимаешь, да. То есть, да. А не та работа, из нее надо, ну понимаю, вот, да, короче. Работа плюс к этому, он понял тебя. Да. И мало он тебя не знает, что надо делать. Но дальнее безделание для людей. Закрой папку после. Либо журналист. Зачем? Это о себе ты как думал? Главное, чтобы ты к себе относился более-менее приемлемо. Так нет, наоборот. Нет, наоборот, игнорируют все эти тогда. Я и так давно уже смысл не перечу. Так дико это выглядит. Ладно. Дичь. Нет, наоборот, нет, вот это есть оно. Если такую дичь просто вот все будут тебя игнорировать, просто наоборот. Ну пошли вы как бы, как это значит, что это значит игнорировать? Я там на тебя как-то шутил сказать, да. А что ужасного-то в этом? Нет, ну вот нет, ну это не относится плохо. опять то же самое, только не наоборот. Зачем мне это писать? Я себе не так думаю, потому что... Нет, да? Чтобы злое было собой, которое я думаю. Трогаешь, против. Да, ну, против, да. Нет, наоборот. Да, типа этого, да, не туда. Злоба твоя, это не просто все. Наоборот. Нет. Наоборот, наоборот. Нет, наоборот, наоборот. Нет. Зачем это тебе? Злая просто старуха, ты пошел к черту. Да, новичок. Вот это истина. Что дальше? Я здесь причем. Я говорю, да. Нет, нет. Нет, типа там создают тупые, наоборот. Потом я понял. Почему? За себя они изучаются. За что не извините? Ну, это чувство. Ну, обычно как-то реагируют и в деревне ты из одного будешь голодным, я понял, что за глупость. Может, не реагирует сейчас. Да, кстати, ты знаешь, как правильно это читается? У меня тогда почта такая, вообще Подожди. Ладно. Нехорошо уже все. Да. Ну нет, ладно, не касается. Да, продолжать-то надо лучше в выживании. Безобразие. Опа, это что такое? Сразу мясной отдел попал, скажи, нет, это... Так вот скажи. Нет, нормально все. Это есть, он самый есть. Нет. Ну нет, а что ты Не буду писать. Чтобы не случилось, говорит, надо. Себя смотреть. А, нет, на себе так говорят. А. значит, надо слайд, черт. Это единственное самое. Нормально, значит нормально. Вот это есть.
So it seems all piano players want to play fast. So today we'll talk about
Не играешь, ты не можешь.
playing fast. Before we get the discussion going, let me play some stuff that I think is fast to sort of set the stage for things here. Okay, well, you may have to give up something to play that fast, and there's a way to do it, which I can show you. But keep in mind that the golfer Tiger Woods gave up golf for 6 months once to totally destroy his game, start all over again. He deconstructed his stroke, did terribly in his own putting green, I guess, and then finally got it together. So there is something to this that I need to explain to you. Okay, the first rule of fast piano playing is to have as many notes under the hand in one handful as you can. For instance, in a C scale, you have 3 notes and then 5 more. The next thing is to keep the thumb way in over the knuckle. The thumb and the forefinger determine everything. All the power comes from these 2 things. And when you change positions, handful to handful, the thumb always determines where you go and how far the hand goes in and a lot of other things. Okay, so thumb in over the knuckle, not over the nail. In a minute you'll see what happens if you don't do that. Okay, when you practice the various positions, always practice the next higher position first. For instance, in a C scale, anyone can do the first 3 notes. It's done. You should be thinking away to the next handful, which is F. The reason you practice the next higher handful first is that it needs to have a very specific position based on the thumb to play it well. If you don't, if you just let the preceding position determine the position of the next handful, it'll get all messed up. In other words, when you do this, cross your thumb under, your hand is pointed at about 10 o'clock. But to play the next handful fast, you need to have your hand pointed almost 1 o'clock, at least 12 for 1. Thumb in over the knuckle. Okay. Now, if you allow the first position to determine the next position, thumb hits the knuckle, you have to suddenly recoup, get the hand over here, and coming down, it's the same thing in reverse.
хотели со мной поговорить, что ли? Хотели просто смотреть, что я даже друзей, да не знаю. Ну, наверное.
Positions, handful to handful. The thumb always determines where you go and how far the hand goes in and a lot of other things. Okay, so thumb in over the knuckle, not over the nail. In a minute you'll see what happens if you don't do that. Okay, when you practice the various positions, always practice the next higher position. Okay, the first rule of fast piano playing is to have as many notes under the hand in one handful as you can. For instance, in a C scale, you have 3 notes, and then 5 more. The next thing is to keep the thumb way in over the knuckle. The thumb and the forefinger determine everything. All the power comes from these 2 things. And when you change positions, handful to handful, the thumb always determines where you go and how far the hand goes in and a lot of other things. Okay, so thumb in over the knuckle, not over the nail. In a minute you'll see what happens if you don't do that. Okay, in a minute you'll see what happens if you don't do that. Okay, so thumb in over the knuckle, not over the nail. In a minute you'll see what happens if you don't do that. Okay, when you practice the various positions, always practice the next higher position first. For instance, in a C scale, anyone can do the first 3 notes. It's done. You should be thinking away to the next handful, which is F. The reason you practice the next higher handful first is that it needs to have a very specific position based on the thumb to play it well. If you don't, if you just let the preceding position determine the position of the next handful, it'll get all messed up. In other words, when you do this, cross your thumb under, your hand is pointed at about 10 o'clock. But to play the next handful fast, you need to have your hand pointed almost 1 o'clock, at least 12 for 1. Thumb in over the knuckle. Okay. Now, if you allow the first position to determine the next position, thumb hits the knuckle, you have to suddenly recoup, get the hand over here, and coming down, it's the same thing reverse. To know how to finish out the second handful, you need to practice the next position, in this case going down. If you bring the thumb way in, you see the hand looks like this, index in the middle of 2 black keys. And this will help you flip over and just get there. You just think away 2. Okay. If you don't, if you reach over, now in reverse, the thumb will go over the nail, and as you come down, these fingers will fall off the piano. There'll be thumb on the nail here. And each time you do that, hitting the thumb on the nail and crossing over too much, the thumb is always loud. It'll always determine the downbeat. But if you bring the thumb way in over the knuckle, and then keep a beat in mind always. Okay, be aware that the downbeat in the second position is G. The thumb is in between the beats. This way you avoid hitting the thumb loudly when its turn comes up. So how do you do this? You need to memorize where the beats are. The beats are in fact C, E, G, and B. When its turn comes up. So how do you do this? You need to memorize where the beats are. The beats are in fact C, E, G, and B. blocking out the position, which becomes really important when you go up 2 octaves, because you notice the beats are this. So what was that? Well, it was 1, 3, 2, 4, back to 2. Here's the thumb down here, having to move up almost an octave. So you think it's hard just to move the beats up. You can see how hard it would be to maintain a good hand position, the thumb in, when you're actually doing the extra notes. Now this applies to jazz too, when you're doing more abstract ideas. Here's some bebop. If you analyze that and slow it down, it becomes little handfuls. 3 notes, 4 or 5 notes, and then about 8 more.
Вот и говорит, если их не дать, да, вот это есть.
Tonight, the nation bracing for a new COVID explosion and a major step in the race for a vaccine. Fears mounting after millions of Americans ignored warnings over the holiday weekend. Dr. Anthony Fauci predicting a surge upon a surge. 4 million cases just this month. The major city under strict new stay-at-home orders. The dire new warning states issued today about their hospitals. And the NFL team barred from playing in their own stadium. Moderna, now the second company to seek emergency vaccine approval. My conversation with the CEO. How soon he says it could happen. And inside the rollout mission, the critical role passenger planes are taking. President-elect Joe Biden receiving his first classified briefing and his historic picks as he staffs up his administration. The injury over the weekend he's recovering from, and the 2 battlegrounds delivering a new blow today to President Trump's legal fight. Severe storms barrel through several states, tornadoes, strong winds, heavy rain. Al Roker is here. This Cyber Monday expected to be the biggest ever. How to score deals all week long, plus the shipping alert you need to know about. The man clinging to a capsized boat 86 miles off the coast tonight, how he survived. And messages to Santa in the pandemic. What kids are really asking for this year.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening, everyone. The specter of a COVID surge on top of a surge is almost too much to imagine, but it's exactly what public health officials believe we may be in for as millions of Americans return to their lives today, some likely bringing home from Thanksgiving gatherings more than just family memories. Officials urging travelers to take precautions and to assume you have the virus to stop the spread, because the current wave has already left some hospitals without a single spare bed to offer. Miguel Almaguer has details.
As authorities brace for a deadly December, the end of November marks the most dire month of the pandemic. A record 4 million new cases in 4 weeks and a grim 35,000 fatalities. Now, as tens of millions of Americans return home from the holiday, the darkest days may be yet to come.
As we go for the next couple of weeks into December, that we might see a surge superimposed upon that surge that we're already in.
Expecting to see new infections spike in the next 5 to 10 days, in states like Rhode Island, there is no place for the sick to go. An emergency alert warning residents stay home, saying hospitals are at capacity. Several regions are on the brink.
At this point in COVID, it's widespread. All bets are off.
Today, New York's governor told hospitals to start recruiting retired nurses now, warning new statewide restrictions could soon be ordered. In Los Angeles County, daily cases have quadrupled, while hospitalizations have nearly tripled.
Effective today, some of the nation's toughest restrictions are in place for LA County. Among them, no mixing with other households, not even for a walk in the park.
In the Bay Area, Santa Clara County is banning contact sports, forcing the 49ers to now play home games in Arizona. The measures applauded by nurses like Erin McIntosh, who has watched colleagues become infected with the virus.
When we're gone, there's just nobody that's going to take care of you when you're in the hospital. And that should scare everyone.
Tonight, a record number of Americans are hospitalized instead of home as officials scramble to slow the surge. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
Now to the breaking news from the other major front in the war on this pandemic. Today, biotech company Moderna is submitting its COVID vaccine to the FDA for emergency use authorization. Like Pfizer, which submitted its own vaccine days earlier, Moderna says its vaccine is about 95% effective. In an interview with top execs from 3 vaccine makers today, Moderna's president told me he expects approval very soon.
We're quite optimistic, actually, that the vaccine is, the data speaks for itself, and they'll be supportive.
Once approval comes, how quickly does Moderna spring into action and begin shipping the product?
So like the others, we're partnered with General Perna and his team at Operation Warp Speed. I've been told they want trucks rolling within hours, if not a day. And so what we've done is we've been helping to position the vaccine in the warehouses where they can access it immediately if it's approved and start distribution.
As you wait for this FDA approval, is there a plan B if for some reason they don't approve?
There hasn't been much of a plan B since about February. We're all in on this. We hope this vaccine works. Obviously, we're confident in the data. If they come back with any questions, of course, we'll do everything we can to answer those questions. But at this point, there's not a plan B.
You can hear much more of my interview with the top execs on Dateline this Thursday. This week, we're taking a special look at the race for a vaccine across all of NBC News. Tonight, we focus on the enormous challenge of distributing the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines once approved, both here and in Europe. Here's Tom Costello.
Moderna's challenge, moving millions of doses of its vaccine via cargo carriers to every corner of the country for use the minute the FDA gives the go-ahead. That could come within 2 weeks. Moderna's vaccine can be kept in a normal freezer, while Pfizer's requires Arctic cold. Already, Pfizer is using United Airlines cargo flights packed with dry ice to pre-position millions of its vaccine doses while awaiting FDA approval. Part of a massive distribution network now taking shape worldwide. American Airlines also using empty passenger planes to rush supplies around the globe.
Inside the 787, no passengers and no suitcases. It's all cargo, making room for more medical supplies, vaccines, therapeutics, and PPE.
Pharmaceuticals that require cooling are shipped in mobile freezers. Their temperatures constantly monitored.
If the temperature drops by even 1/4 degree, the alarm goes off and our team is able to investigate what's going on and make sure that the shipment's ready for the rest of its journey.
A CDC advisory committee will meet tomorrow to decide who gets vaccinated first. Arkansas Health Director Dr. Jose Romero is on that committee.
What is your biggest challenge in Arkansas?
I think our biggest challenge is going to be reaching those urban constituents that need the vaccine, rural health care centers, rural hospitals.
While the military will rush vaccines to every state and territory, each health department must get it to the most remote corners of the country. Both Moderna and Pfizer require 2 shots. One concern, keeping the Pfizer vaccine cold enough.
It may not be possible to get it out to some remote clinics and smaller hospitals that just don't have the capacity to store it in the appropriate fashion.
With lives on the line, one of the biggest civilian cargo airlifts in history is now ramping up. Tom Costello, NBC News, Philadelphia.
This is Keir Simmons in London, as many European countries announce nationwide strategies to vaccinate their citizens. The UK's plan, which is ready to roll out, begins with immediate vaccinations in care homes for elderly residents and those who work in them. Next up, people 80 years and older, along with all healthcare workers. They're followed by people in their 70s and late 60s. After them, adults with underlying health conditions. Mass distribution is expected later in 2021. Volunteers are already being trained.
People are going to be frightened. Some people who maybe have never had a vaccine since they were in school.
In Germany, this medical freezer manufacturer is working all hours.
The dog, which then gets married with the body of a freezer.
Sending units across Europe and to the US.
Minus 82.2 degrees.
Within weeks, they will have the ability to store 100,000 vaccine vials each. You are surrounded by enough refrigerators for more than 1 million vaccines.
This is a logistic project the world has never seen before.
The green light from Europe's regulators could happen at any moment. Officials here in the UK have been told to be ready for vaccinations as early as tomorrow. Lester?
It's just an incredible operation. Keir Simmons, thanks very much.
You do not have to be perfect to do what I do. You just have to have a calling, a desire to help people. Clients ranging from rock stars and movie stars and royalty and Olympic athletes to police inspectors, to firemen, to school teachers, to single parents, to stressed out teenagers, to very troubled young children. And to all of them, I learned what they need, what they're looking for. This masterclass is also for you. If you would love to have those skills, if you would love to work with clients on a one-to-one basis, but aren't sure how to do that, you can learn how to do that super fast and get all the benefits of being your own boss, but more than anything, changing people's lives. People come up to me in the street and say to me, wow, you changed my life. I bet you're sick of hearing that. But, you know, in 30 years.
The presidential transition is moving forward. President-elect Joe Biden received his first classified intelligence briefing today, while President Trump is still making baseless claims of election fraud. Let's begin with Jeff Bennett.
Tonight, the Biden transition entering a critical new phase. The president-elect and vice president-elect today receiving the president's daily brief for the first time. The briefing offers Biden insight into the most sensitive and urgent national security questions, including how the killing of Iran's top nuclear scientist complicates his goal of rejoining the Iran nuclear agreement.
I'm hopeful that President-elect Biden can actually reach in and calm the waters, but I think this heightens tension significantly.
The briefing comes as Biden continues his transition with history-making hires, officially unveiling a diverse group to lead his economic team alongside Treasury Secretary nominee Janet Yellen. Biden also naming his senior communications team. For the first time, all of the top staffers tasked with shaping White House messaging will be women. The president-elect is on the mend tonight after a CT scan confirmed hairline fractures in his right foot, an injury suffered Saturday while playing with his dog, Major. NBC News capturing this shot after aides refused to let reporters see Biden enter or leave the doctor's office. Biden's doctor saying the president-elect will likely require a walking boot for several weeks. Jeff Bennett, NBC News, Wilmington, Delaware.
I'm Hallie Jackson at the White House. In Phoenix today, a last gasp in a fading fight.
So I call this the McCarthy era on steroids.
The president's lawyers still pushing conspiracy theories about widespread fraud that doesn't exist in an election that's all but settled in a state that today is certifying its results. Leaders, including Arizona's Republican governor, officially naming Joe Biden the winner there.
We do elections well here in Arizona. The system is strong.
Wisconsin also formalizing its results, showing Biden taking that state after a partial recount requested by the Trump campaign. Despite that, and despite all the evidence showing the system worked, the president's trying to undercut it and override the will of the voters, now blasting the former top cybersecurity official he fired, Chris Krebs, who called this election the most secure in American history.
The proof is in the ballots.
Krebs standing by his statement in a new 60 Minutes interview.
That pretty thoroughly, in my opinion, debunks some of these sensational claims out there that I've called nonsense and a hoax.
President Trump defiant, even in the face of repeated legal losses.
We should be heard by the Supreme Court. Something has to be able to get up there. Otherwise, what is the Supreme Court?
To put that into context, of the 41 lawsuits filed by the Trump campaign and its Republican allies so far, at least 27 have been denied, dismissed, or withdrawn. And so far, no court has found a single instance of fraud. Lester.
Hallie Jackson at the White House tonight. Thank you. The Supreme Court today took up President Trump's final legal battle over immigration, his plan to exclude undocumented immigrants from the census. Pete Williams explains why.
If President Trump gets his way, this year's census will not include undocumented immigrants. And because it determines how many seats in the U.S. House each state gets, that could mean a loss of clout for New York, Florida, Texas, and California.
What he's attempting to do is basically transfer power from those states that have significant number of immigrants to those that do not.
The states say the president's plan would...
What is the reason?
Violate the Constitution's command that the census must count the whole number of persons. Even some of the court's conservatives noted that in every single census, that has meant counting people who live here.
If an undocumented person has been in the country for, say, 20 years, even if illegally, as you say, why would such a person not have a settled residence here?
Hi, I'm here with the U.S.
The court seemed reluctant to decide.
So why aren't we better advised to do that?
If it turns out the modified census would affect seats in Congress, the states could come right back here, and the court would probably throw it out. Lester?
Pete Williams tonight. Thank you. This cyber...
Куриные лапки, веточка сакуры и щепотка мозгов. Тикток-блогеров, увы, больше не нашла.
А вы точно учитель по английскому?
Ты хочешь выучить английский за пару часов? Это невозможно без магии, но не...
Monday is expected to be the biggest online shopping day in U.S. history. Jolene Kent has the deals you can score all week as shipping deadlines approach fast.
The frenzy of Cyber Monday is a sign of our changing times, the pandemic not slowing down online holiday sales. Shoppers expected to spend $12.7 billion, the most ever online in a single day. And the golden hours of Cyber Monday anticipated later tonight, when shoppers could spend $13 million a minute. That means shipping will be busier than ever. To steer clear of possible delays and exposure to COVID-19, curbside pickup has exploded in popularity. And if you haven't finished your shopping, Cyber Monday will turn into Cyber Week starting tomorrow, with computers discounted 30% on average, 20% off toys and appliances. Beyond the big retailers, some smaller businesses are doing gangbusters too. Sales on Etsy more than doubling in just a year. Shopify, the platform that runs e-commerce for thousands of brands, says the future of retail is forever changed.
Cyber Monday has shifted from a weekend to a season, and I think it has led to entrepreneurs and independent businesses really being the winners of this particular holiday season.
To make the most of Cyber Week, shopping experts advise make your list and prioritize the hottest selling items, and always look for additional discounts before checking out, especially a promo code.
Joe, with more stay-at-home orders looming in a lot of places, will online deals be extended?
The whole advice here is just to order now. Prices are expected to creep up after this week. Shipping will get more expensive and less reliable the closer we get to Santa's big day. Lester?
Certainly going to be his busy day. All right, Jolene, thanks. We're tracking a major storm in the east. Al Roker's tracking it. Al, what can we expect?
Lester, we've got heavy rain and strong winds in the northeast, but back to the west from Buffalo all the way north of Atlanta, we are looking at snow. Wind gusts anywhere from 25 to 55 miles per hour in the northeast. But look at this, 27 million people under winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories from the Great Lakes all the way down into the southeast. Snowfall amounts up to a foot near the Great Lakes, up to 8 inches, Lester, along the spine of the Appalachians. It's an early winter storm that's going to really hit people hard. Lester?
All right, Al Roker, thank you, sir. In just 60 seconds, charities in crisis, just when the need is greatest. Tomorrow is Giving Tuesday, when many Americans donate to charity. But this holiday, many are struggling to serve and survive. Ann Thompson now on the crisis.
It's a holiday tradition. The United Way fulfilling wish lists for the needy of Hunterdon County, New Jersey, with donations from the community. But so far, there are 300 more lists than donors.
The need has never been this great because the families themselves are in such financial crisis. Even before, if they had $20 to go and spend to put something on the tree, they don't have that. They need to pay rent and utilities now.
Like the people many serve, COVID is infecting the bottom lines of America's nonprofits. Charity Navigator says 72% have suffered financially. The virus put the kibosh on Operation Warm's signature parties, where they give away specially made brand new coats to kids.
On average, we would get 150,000 requests.
Нет, не должно быть. Не задевакать одежду. Ага. Ага. С ума сошел. Ну вот это имеет в виду, что ты зубов-то не тут. Какого как я, такого как ты, говорит, и что это значит, как ты к такому как хорошего человека, что ли, что? Нет, ну, наверное, вот это, наверное, нет, да, да, это, наверное, а вот это было на самом вот это, ну, да, вранье это такое все. Все, да. Нет, если не надо, значит, говорить было этого, да. Это еще что такое? То удалять надо. С Петербурга, что ли? Сразу пожарил. Омлетик. Что так интересно было? Ладно.
Это «Вести Удмуртии». Здравствуйте. В студии...
For coats from kids.
Wow. That's more than double.
Yes.
Donations are steady, but nowhere near enough. Even the sound of the giving season may be somewhat muted. The Salvation Army expects a drop of 50% in kettle collections, despite a 155% increase in need. Then there's the matter of health. Becky Testa is one of 10 volunteers allowed inside this United Way branch.
Rescue at sea. It was only the metal barrier. Believe it or not, he escaped with only minor injuries. Just amazing. Another remarkable escape involves a stranded boater off the Florida coast, and not a moment too soon. Here's Kerry Sanders with that.
62-year-old Stuart B. is lucky to be alive, lucky to have been spotted Sunday by the crew of a passing cargo ship in the vast Atlantic Ocean. He was 86 miles off the Florida coast, clinging to the tiniest portion of his 32-foot boat.
You know, miraculous probably isn't a strong enough word for what they found. I mean, a person standing on a bow, that's almost a made-for-TV moment.
And there was just the top or the bow of the boat poking out of the water at that point.
That is absolutely it.
B left Cape Canaveral Friday afternoon. After a friend reported him missing Saturday, the Coast Guard put out an alert. That's how the cargo ship Angeles knew to scan the sea. Marine officials say they are not sure why the boat sank, only that B hung onto the bow for at least 4 hours.
We just rescued one person.
And I cannot imagine the desperation that Mr. B was going through at that moment, or the elation of finding a vessel out at sea. That was a needle in a haystack.
Tonight, Stuart B., exhausted and weather-worn, is still on the cargo ship that rescued him. Kerry Sanders, NBC News, Miami.
Up next, what kids are asking Santa in a season like no other. Finally, it's different this year, but the spirit of Christmas is alive and well. Just ask the kids and Santa. Here's Rahima Ellis.
Even in a pandemic, the once-a-year visit with Santa Claus is still on, but it will look a little different. Santa's social distancing behind plexiglass. Elves are checking temperatures. Sometimes Santa will be online, like from the Santa Experience in the Mall of America.
Ho, ho, ho! Hello, Rahima!
Hi, Santa. Why is it important that we're socially distancing this year?
We're doing this to help to save lives and to protect us and each other from getting the virus.
What kids all around the world are asking for is different, too. 10-year-old Julian would like $100 to help his parents pay the bills. In France, Zoe wrote, "I'm not asking for many things to avoid infection." 10-year-old Lola asked for the virus to go away and for some magic to get through this tough year.
Try to get children to see and understand that we will get through this pandemic. Santa is still coming to your house.
So kids, you better get the milk and cookies ready.
Merry Christmas to you all.
Rahima Ellis, NBC News, New York.
Santa, you're the man. That's Nightly News. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night.
Анастасия Стерхова. Мы работаем в прямом эфире. В начале выпуска коротко о главном. Смертельная авария на федеральной трассе в Удмуртии. Машина на встречке, 3 погибших. С какой скоростью двигался автомобиль? Деньги вернут. Жильцам Ижевска компенсируют часть затрат на новые лифты. Кого это коснется сегодня и что будет с программой завтра? Знания в Кубе. В столице республики заработал новый образовательный IT-проект, когда начнется запись на бесплатные занятия. Коронавируса. Как пояснили в Минздраве региона, препарат должен поступить в ближайшее время. По предварительным данным, это будет 1300 доз, и предназначены они прежде всего для медиков, работающих в красной зоне. Списки получателей сейчас формируются. Как уточняют специалисты, прививка не даст стопроцентной защиты, но поможет избежать тяжелых последствий. Храниться такой препарат должен в особых условиях, и они в регионе есть.
В республике есть оборудование, где можно хранить этот препарат.
На своих автомобилях ежедневно развозят врачей на вызовы, которых становится только больше. В сегодняшнем списке участкового терапевта Марины Королевой 12 адресов, в основном в частном секторе.
Много времени уходит на дорогу именно, даже может не столько на само, как на прием.
Крылов, Вести, Удмуртия.
26 автомобилей получили накануне и врачи из района.
В светлое время суток дорожное полотно было